We begin by meeting Oliver, an autistic boy glued to his phone who spends all day watching cartoons. He does not notice, however, that something watches him from behind the screen. Later that night, he wakes and finds a suggested ebook titled Misunderstood Monsters. For some reason, the tab won't close, and he ends up opening the book. While he flips through it, his bedside lamp starts flickering for no reason. The story is about Larry, a monster who only wants a friend, and as he keeps scrolling the ebook, all the lights in the house suddenly go out. Terrified, Oliver closes his bedroom door, stacks toys to bar it, and hides under the blanket. But the door opens again. It is his mother, Sarah, who finds him panicked and calmly uses an app on her own phone to help him express himself. Oliver tries to warn her through the app that something is in the house, but she reassures him there is nothing there. At school, thoughts of Larry unsettle him, and classmates mock him for relying on an app to speak. After class, Mateo invites him to accompany him and leads him to an empty field. Not long after, Mateo, Zach, and Byron surround Oliver and begin to taunt him, and while he struggles to communicate via the app, the presence on his device's screen grows increasingly agitated. After retaliating the taunts by calling Byron ugly through the app, Byron throws Oliver's phone into a ditch, prompting him to frantically search for it, but he can't recover it. A few hours later, Oliver attends his regular speech therapy session with his mother, who now knows he lost the phone. This worries her, but the therapist points out Oliver should not depend on the phone forever to communicate and that he should try to make a friend. Oliver's father, Marty, works as an attendant in a parking booth. That night he rummages in a lost and found box and finds an iPad, thinking of giving it to his son. While holding the tablet, the lights begin to flicker and the door suddenly opens, scaring him. He immediately goes to fix the lights as strong winds blow outside. But unbeknownst to him, an invisible figure forms in the background before disappearing. Later that night, after Marty arrives home and gifts Oliver the iPad, his wife Sarah vents to him about how their son Oliver seems to like him more than her. That's because he always comes home with nice presents while she accompanies Oliver through the uncomfortable parts of his day, like speech therapy. While the parents argue, Oliver fiddles with the face recognition feature of his new iPad until the camera registers another face behind him. That prompts him to look into his closet, but finding nothing there, he returns to the iPad and pans around the room using a photo filter. Frightened, he continues to use the camera to look for the invisible being again, but it seems to have vanished for now. He closes the closet door before going to bed that night. Late at night, his father can be seen driving away from the house, while his mother solemnly tucks him in so he can rest well. The next morning, absent-mindedly tapping the tablet, Oliver unintentionally types the words, "Is Dad gone?" And to his surprise, the app responds with a narration that says, "Yes," followed by the phrase, "Hello, boy." Curious, he asks whoever replies to identify themselves. After a few moments, the device emits a voice that introduces itself as Larry, claiming all it wants is to be Oliver's friend. Still stunned by the revelation, he receives a visit from his mother. Sarah comes to tell him she has scheduled a play date for him that night, and in between, reveals that she and his father are getting a divorce. The boy, deeply shaken, barely registers his mother's words. He then grabs the tablet, hides it in the wall gap, and retires to his room. At night, in an attempt to encourage his sociability, Sarah organizes a sleepover and invites her friend Jennifer with her son Byron, as well as Mateo and Zach. Although it's clear the three boys are unsympathetic toward Oliver, they agree to attend by their mother's orders. They set up makeshift mattresses in the living room, but none can fall asleep because Oliver remains restless, fixating on the gap where he hid the tablet. Irritated by his insistence, the boys search the space, find the device, and immediately see the ebook open on the iPad. Byron begins reading it aloud, and, as the words are spoken, the lamps in the house start flickering around them. According to the story, Larry the monster watches through device screens and needs someone to finish reading the ebook so he can fully cross into our world. Suddenly, all the lights around them go out, throwing the boys into panic. They try to turn them back on without success. Then Oliver decides to turn on the iPad camera to look for Larry and sees on the display a strange figure curled up in a corner. When the shape moves, the boys are frightened, but soon convince themselves it's just an app effect. Byron, wanting to show it's all a joke, rips the iPad away again and continues reading the story aloud mockingly. He then walks to the edge of the room to show his friends there is no Larry. It is at that moment Larry decides to make himself present and hurls the table toward the boy, pinning him against the wall. The boys begin to scream, waking Sarah. Later, the boys' parents are called in the middle of the night because the three are traumatized and begging to go home. When Sarah questions them about what happened, the terrified boys quickly blame Oliver for being weird. The next day, Byron seems to be absent from school, leaving us to wonder if something happened to him. Meanwhile, Sarah returns home with a set of new light bulbs to replace all the bulbs that broke after what occurred the night before. Despite her confusion, she begins replacing the bulbs until she comes across the ebook about Larry on Oliver's iPad and starts reading it. As she does, she notices the dining room lights beginning to flicker, so she goes to check, only to discover that all the bulbs in the house have been replaced when she returns to the living room. This, of course, scares her, and she starts calling her husband to see if he is home. Hearing the sound of furniture being moved, she grabs a knife from the kitchen, and it is then that a voice suddenly says, "Hello," through the iPad. Larry, the iPad monster, continues saying he will take Oliver using the device's voice function. Thinking it's a hacker trying to mess with her son, the worried Sarah rushes to pick Oliver up from school. As they are about to leave, her friend Jennifer calls, so they visit her. There, Sarah discovers Byron hasn't slept or spoken since last weekend. After Oliver tries to cheer him up by putting on SpongeBob to watch together, Byron finally tells the adults that Oliver did nothing wrong during the sleepover. Larry did. He says an invisible entity named Larry messed with the lights and the furniture and even tried to drag him into the shadows that night. Since Sarah read the story on the iPad too and experienced the lights flickering, she believes Byron. Mother and son return home and start packing immediately to leave the house. However, just as they are about to depart, Oliver picks up his iPad and then hears someone's footsteps. Looking through the camera, he sees Larry entering his room. When Oliver enters the room, he sees Larry placing a sponge on his bed while asking him to come closer. Oliver tries to look under the bed but finds no one there. He takes the sponge Larry placed on the bed and puts it in his backpack before they leave. They seek refuge at the father's house, who has difficulty believing Sarah's explanation about Larry. Sarah also tells the husband that Larry wants Oliver as a friend, but instead the father thinks she needs rest and offers to take Oliver to work while Sarah rests for once. With Sarah's consent, Marty takes his son to work. After they arrive, he opens the iPad and begins to flip through the ebook while convincing Oliver that scary stories aren't real. But as he turns the pages, the lights begin to flicker until they finally go out completely. Despite this, he still assures Oliver everything is fine and grabs his toolbox from the truck to fix the lights. Inside the box, Oliver finds a laser distance meter, which he takes with him to the parking lot, somewhat disconnecting from the danger around him. He points the device into the air and watches the number on the meter decrease, indicating someone is approaching. The meter then reads someone is in front of him, so Oliver tries to throw his slime toy at it, and it sticks to the air to something invisible. But before they interact further, the father scoops Oliver up and takes him back into the booth. Seeing how scared Oliver is, he turns on the iPad camera and once again tries to convince his son there's no monster nearby, while ironically, Oliver is slowly lifted into the air behind him. When the father turns, he sees a glimpse of Larry on the screen and panics. He quickly grabs Oliver and takes him back home, where he finally admits to Sarah that he now believes her. Oliver then begins to communicate with his parents through drawings. Through these drawings, the parents conclude that Larry is invisible because he lives in a different world from theirs and hasn't fully transitioned to their world yet, which is why he hasn't succeeded in grabbing Oliver. To prevent Larry from traveling to their world, the parents destroy Oliver's iPad. The next day, they try to inform Oliver's speech therapist about Larry, but she doesn't believe them. She finds it debilitating to keep Oliver away from devices because he still cannot communicate verbally. At school, we see Oliver has been given a new phone, and he tells Byron that Larry won't bother anyone anymore because the iPad was destroyed. Byron then says they used to be friends but stopped after an incident in which Oliver hit Byron. After the incident, Oliver's mother Sarah called Byron to say Oliver didn't want to be friends anymore, This shocks Oliver because it's not true, and he is surprised his mother would make up such lies. That night, the father is at work when he discovers Larry's e-book is now on his phone. Instead of closing it, he dramatically sighs and begins flipping through the pages. The book warns that whoever prevents Larry from getting a new friend will die. And with that, all the lights go out, while the parked cars start beeping one by one. The father begins to hear heavy footsteps around him, so he hides under his desk and uses his phone camera to see where Larry is. When Larry finally ambushes him, he makes a dash for his car and drives away. But then he sees that the street lights are going out, meaning Larry is following him. The creature jumps onto his car, and when Marty looks through the phone camera, he sees him behind his car. He is terrified, and the phone falls from his hand. But when he picks up the phone, he sees Larry sitting beside him. At home, Sarah receives a call from the police informing her her husband was found by the side of the road and is hospitalized. While she rushes in panic, she begins to hear Larry breathing on the phone and discovers the e-book now displayed on her phone screen, so she throws the phone away. Immediately after, she throws all the phones in the house into the dumpster. Entering the living room, she finds the TV on. Larry communicates through the TV, saying he is made of loneliness and simply will not stop until he finds a friend, showing his e-book on the TV screen and beginning to scroll to the last page, which shows Larry dragging a child into his world. Finally enraged, Sarah rips the TV off the wall and throws it away, and does the same with all electrical devices in the house. The lights around the house start blinking rapidly until they finally go out completely. At some point, Oliver decides to leave the house, where he and Sarah watch as all the lights in the neighborhood suddenly go out while car headlights blink alternately as Larry approaches them. Finally, because they scrolled to the last page of the e-book, Larry is able to come out of the upside-down world. This, of course, terrifies mother and son, so they retreat into the house and hide behind a pillar while Larry enters to look for them. Not long after, they slip past him and go upstairs to hide under Oliver's bed. In writing, Oliver decides to confront his mother for ending his friendship with Byron with lies. Hurt, he proclaims he will let Larry come get him, but his mother apologizes and convinces him to stay. After some time, Larry enters the room and walks around searching for them. While the two wait in fear, Oliver for some reason utters his first word, "Field." This draws Larry's attention and forces them out of hiding. But just before leaving the room, Oliver grabs a baseball bat and smashes all the remaining lights in the room. Curiously, this seems to affect Larry, who begins to disappear again. Afterwards, Oliver leads his mother downstairs while shouting "Field" repeatedly. They run through the neighborhood to the field where Oliver lost the phone and watch how the lights outside the field flicker. But Larry seems unable to approach them because he needs to be near a source of electricity to move. However, they forget one thing: Oliver's lost phone. Larry uses the screen to step out and chase them, forcing them to run up the hill until they are separated. Finally, Larry grabs Oliver and drags him away from his mother before releasing him and beckoning for him to take his hand. But before he reaches Oliver, Sarah takes his hand, sacrificing herself to protect Oliver. The child looks his mother in the eye for the first time in her final moments, something Sarah had struggled with since Oliver's diagnosis. Her face begins to contort in a strange way, and suddenly she disappears, marking that Larry took her to his world. The next scene shows Oliver attending speech therapy with his father, who now uses a crutch to walk. With Sarah gone, he vows to be a better father to Oliver. At school, Oliver's social life seems to have improved as well. He is now friends with Byron and Mateo again. In the final scene, Marty wakes at night and finds Oliver being swung in the air as if dancing. Opening the phone camera, he sees his wife Sarah there, happily embracing their son. Marty becomes happily emotional at seeing this, and in the other dark plane, Sarah tells the child she will protect him.